Hello everyone, I am Dr. Neeti Bhatt, Assistant Professor English, Bhanu Pratap Dev Government PG College, Kankir. I am going to take the topic P.B. Shelley. In this, I will take two poems, that is Ode to the West Wind and To a Skylark. Now let me tell you, this is the first part of my video, and in this I am going to take introduction, the context and the gist. And in the next part of my video, I will come up with the poem. So let's start. P.B. Shelley, his full name was Percy Bysshe Shelley. This is the introduction part. P.B. Shelley was the famous English romantic poet. He was born on 4th August 1792 near Horsham, England. He died at a very early age of 29, that is just 27 days before his 30th birthday, by drowning on 8th July 1822. Now, Ode to the West Wind was written by Percy Bysshe Shelley in 1819 while living near Florence, Italy, and it was published in 1820. As I told you, in this video, we will try to crack the context and the step by step through the gist. Now let's see something about Peterloo massacre. Actually, it is very important because this is a thing that because of which Shelley was inspired to write this poem. Now the Peterloo massacre happened in England and the poem was written in Italy. We will learn in the poem that the poet wants to somehow cover the distance. At the time of composing this poem, Shelley had the Peterloo massacre in mind. Shelley wrote Ode to the West Wind while sitting in the woods near the Arno River on a windy day in October. Although he loved Italy, but he was feeling depressed about being detached from the political and social scene back in his native England. As a political, religious, and literary radical, Shelley was heavily infused in his own ability to influence society. The poem represents the role of the poet as the voice of change and revolution. Now, first of all, see that what is an ode? Ode is a form of lyric poem that praises an individual, an idea, or an event. It is addressed to someone or something. So the subject of an ode is very serious. On a serious note, it is written, and it is generally used in an eminent style for praising something, expressing emotion, or it represents the poet's musings on that person or thing. The word ode comes from the Greek word aidion, which means to sing or to chant. Now see here the gist. Now before we come to the gist part, let me tell you that what is west wind actually, as it is the title of our poem. So it is a wind that blows from west to east in October, that is in autumn. But what does west wind do? So you can see in the figure also, it sweeps away the dead leaves of October and carries the seeds to their dormant rest in the earth during the winter, only to be nurtured later in spring. Hence, associated with autumn, the west wind brings with it decay and the certainty of a wintry death. But it also makes a spring rebirth possible by clearing away the old leaves and planting seeds. So this blowing of wind from the west suggests an association with the revolutionary, liberating aspects of the young United States. Or is perhaps simply a favorable wind for ships returning home to ports in Europe. You can say that. Now see here. Actually, the main theme of is transformation, and the poem contemplates the links between the world of nature and the realm of the intellect. So we can see here autumn, winter and spring. You can see in the boxes there. Autumn symbolizes maturity, saturation and stasis. Stasis means a long period of inactiveness. Okay. And what happens in winter? The winter represents destruction, death and despair. It is all the negative things you can see here. Then comes the spring. Spring stands for reform, rebirth and renewal. Life is going through the 3 stages of transformation. But what is the driving force? What enables the seeds to rest during the cold of winter, to come up later in the spring? So it is the west wind. But how does the poet relate to it? See here, Shelley is a revolutionary poet of Romantic era, as we know. The same ideas are reflecting in his poetry also. He believes that his ideas can bring a huge change in the society and he can bring revolution by spreading his words throughout the world. He is very helpless. He is chained and bored by the weight of the hours. He cannot move, but his words can move. The social stimulus gives him the trigger and he writes a poem that can inspire his readers. His words and ideas of reform and revolution, of liberty and democracy can be spread among the fresh minds of the generation. So he invokes the west wind to do the same with his idea that it does with the leaves, clouds and waves, to help them reach out to the promise of reformation. So the poet here is invoking the west wind to do the same. Now, Ode to the West Wind is divided into 5 sections, and each of the 5 sections of the poem end with a climatic couplet. The first 3 sections of the poem describe the wind's effect upon earth, air, and ocean. And in the last 2 sections, the poet speaks directly to the wind, asking for its power to lift him up and make him its companion in his wanderings. So this is the optimistic note here. We can see the poem ends with an optimistic note that if winter days are here, then spring is not very far. That is, if sadness is there in the world, then happiness is very near to come. So we can see the lines here. They are very famous lines. Oh wind, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? I hope this will be helpful to you. And in the next video of mine, I will go through the poem. Thank you, everyone.